Welcome, everyone, to Northwest Digital News and our health segment with Jody Summers, Kevin Hunter, Kyle Torgerson here at the broadcast desk. And today we're going to talk about falling asleep. So, Kyle, don't fall asleep during this segment.
I got my coffee.
He's got his coffee. He's ready to go.
Oh, God.
All right, Jody, let's talk about falling asleep. This is actually a really big deal for many Americans who don't get a good night's rest. Let's help them improve on that and improve their health and quality of life. So let's start with what you need to do in the morning when you get up.
Absolutely. So all the other parts of our life, it seems like, if we're planning a meal, if we're planning a trip, if we have an interview, whatever it is, like you plan, what are you going to wear? What do you have to get at the grocery store? All of those things. There's planning that goes into so much of other parts of our life that oftentimes I think we neglect planning for a good night's sleep. And we just expect that we're going to lay down and fall asleep and we're good. Well, if you really want a good night's sleep and you're not getting it now, planning from the moment you get out of bed. Now, then, you don't have to plan all day, but I mean, just really thinking about that, setting your next time that, setting your next bedtime, making it attractive to get back to bed is all part of a good night's sleep. So in the morning, right, like literally before you're even out of the bedroom, get preparations ready for the next time. Because, it's half the time you don't want to get out of bed. So make it nice to get back into bed. Make the bed, obviously look into a good mattress, all of those things. So get it all ready. The other thing too, and down the road as we move through this segment, we're going to talk about taking an Epsom salt bath and the importance of that for muscle relaxation. But my suggestion is right in the morning. So now you get out of bed, you make your bed, you get whatever it is, whether you have a diffuser or you have things that you do at night, kind of nightly rituals, you get those set up. And then when you go into the bathroom to brush your teeth is to prepare for the bath time. Because like I said, as we move through this, we're going to talk about the importance of taking a hot Epsom salt bath. And so what I do is I have and I just get my Epsom salt like at Costco. I mean, they have a good price. So you just get I just get a container with 2 cups. And then I generally will put in an essential oil like lavender or something very relaxing. Now, the thing about if you add essential oils to your bath salts is you can't put oils right in the water because oil and water doesn't mix. But if you, in the morning, if you put a few of drops in there and kind of shake it up, put it in the bathtub, it's all ready to go. And so if we plan early, setting a bedtime, getting it all ready, it makes it easier at night. So that would be the first thing, is to plan.
So all this, doing the essential oils and the salt and everything else, it's not that you're taking a bath in the morning, it's that you're preparing the bath for the hot bath you're going to have in the evening before you go to bed.
Absolutely. And once that's, and the thing about it is that, like, if you do the essential oils in the Epsom salt, you don't want to let it sit a month. You want to use it that night or the next night. And again, I'm going to talk about how that helps your body relax, but it's just part of the nighttime ritual is that's already ready. You don't have to do that work. It's already done for you.
This might have been one of the magic pieces that the military knew, because that was the first requirement. You get out of bed and you had to have that bed looking snappy before you left your bedside. I guess that was a good habit to teach, wasn't it? Let's talk about now that you've made your bed, you've prepared yourself for a hot tub at night, you need to get out of your room. Where do you go next?
You're going right outside. You are taking whatever you're doing. If it's checking now, let's say you're checking your emails or whatever, or you're having breakfast, you make your breakfast. But if you can get outside in the sun, even if it's walking, that's even best. But even if it's sitting, and here's why, we've talked about this before for vitamin D, getting in the sun. But the reason it's so important in the morning is because our bodies are made, in the best case scenario, to be up when the sun is up and to be asleep when the sun is down. And that is why generally we get less sleep in the summer and we get more sleep in the winter, which actually I think this coming up weekend is the time change. So it's going to seem like we're going to have longer to sleep. So we, obviously can get better sleep. But in the morning, first thing, in the first hour or two, getting out in the sun with I guess I call it naked skin, but it's not really, you're naked. You're not naked. You're dressed like you're in your jammies or you're in some clothes that maybe has short sleeves, but your skin doesn't have any sunscreen on it. Mm-hmm. So for women, like, not before your makeup or whatever, and no sunglasses, because the sun in the backs of the eyes actually stimulates the hormone for the day that sets the tone for the hormone at night. So it's serotonin and melatonin, and all of those things are stimulated by sunshine on the backs of the eyes. The other thing that sunshine on the back, and I'm not saying stare up into the sun, I'm just saying be outside where the sun is hitting your eyes. Mm-hmm. It helps people with anxiety and depression. And getting out in the morning can actually help that at night. It seems so counterintuitive, but it stimulates that hormone production in our body, just like the moon and the stars and the oceans. It has a timetable. And when it turns on those hormones in the morning, it knows then it goes, usually those hormones last this long, and then these come on. So getting in the sun, if I could pick, and we're going to talk about a lot of things, that would be probably the top 1 or 2, is get in the sun in the morning for a better night's sleep.
We had a neurologist here on the show probably a month and a half ago, somewhere in that neighborhood, and he said the exact same thing. Get outside, get in the sun in the morning, and explained what actually happens in your brain and how that all works. It was really, really interesting. So you're dead on the money. The neurologist said the exact same thing. Get outside in the morning and get in the sun. So let's talk about, so that's some of your morning preparation that you should, hey, wait though, we did forget one thing. Fill nutritional tanks, explain that.
Yep. So getting your, I try, and again, we've talked about this, sometimes I explain when I work with a client, if our bodies are like cars and they have little things, vitamin D, vitamin C, all of our nutritional tanks are like the tanks on a car. And when they're filled, we do better. Just like if a car has a tank that's low, it doesn't do as well, and eventually gets so low it breaks, and eventually it's so low the car just stops working, which is the case of chronic disease. Mm-hmm. Now, we're not talking about chronic disease here, but keeping those tanks optimal, which is like when you look at the vitamin D, vitamin C, protein, all of those, keeping them on the higher range of normal, which is considered optimal, mm-hmm. will help you have energy during the day. And then as so for me, I take a powder to liquid supplementation that covers all 90 essential nutrients. I take it in the morning, especially mm-hmm. vitamin Ds are very energizing. And I just start my day that way. I take some at night as well when I go to yoga, but I usually start that way, and it will spur on that more energy, and the more energy you have in the morning, the better you're going to sleep at night.
So when you're talking about filling nutritional tanks, is this akin to having a so-called good breakfast, or is it you're more talking about just making sure that the nutrients that you mentioned in the way of vitamin D, vitamin C, other things are being supplemented right away in the morning?
Both. If you're not really hungry, because some people eat at different times of the day. I'm not a morning eater. I like to keep my eating in a smaller window. Mm-hmm. But I do take my supplementation in the morning. But no matter what you're doing, if you're not eating, then supplementing might be for you in the morning. If you are eating a good breakfast, and again, I think that we can talk about that on another time. Eating it, right away is kind of a myth. It adds to weight loss, weight gain if you're not hungry. We have plenty of stores in our body mm-hmm. that we can make it through the morning without breakfast for some people. But either way, whether you're getting a high quality nutrient dense breakfast or supplementing, it just helps your body to start well. And then when it starts well, you have more energy and you sleep better. So if you're not eating, that's how I do mine. I take my nutrients in the morning.
Okay, let's talk about the afternoon.
Absolutely.
Going for a walk, getting out in Mother Nature.
And there's just two things. If you can, again, get outside, if you're working all day, if you have a break, even if you stand outside, take off your shoes and stand in the grass and walk in circles or just move, or just being outside with your feet in grass or sand or dirt or something when you're moving that lymphatic system, when you're moving the circulatory system, it helps you sleep better. And I'm not talking about heavy duty exercise during your 10-minute break at work. I'm talking about just moving. And we have I believe truly that the exercise industry has really manipulated the word, like exercise is so important. Movement is so important. And it doesn't have to be at a gym. It doesn't have to be a program, just something. And that needs to be done in the afternoon. If you do it at night, it can keep you up. I mean, I'm not talking about a gentle walk, but I'm talking about, one of the things is not to exercise right before bed.
Corey Everson, a longtime Miss Olympia champion, said that for people who are dedicated to this 1 hour hardcore workout, in a day, she said, hey, if you exercise or move 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, or whatever, do that at various times. She goes, and your goal was a 1 hour. She goes, 5 or 6 segments of 10 minutes is just as good as a 1 hour somewhere else. So she goes, don't ever forget that. So that comes right from a Miss Olympia. All right. So evening time, there's a lot you need to do towards the end of your day to make sure you get a good night's rest. Where do you want to start?
Stop eating. We're going to start with stopping. We're going to stop eating. And it says we've kind of planned our bedtime, whether it's 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock or whatever, whatever you choose, 9:30, doesn't matter. Stop eating about 4 hours or approximately thereof before that time, because our body takes, produces hormones. And we're going to talk about this in our next segment about staying asleep and how blood sugar regulation can actually wake us up 2 to 3 hours after we go to bed. But especially if you're eating, let's say, a bowl of ice cream and then you go to bed an hour later, the way the blood sugar is, it can wake you up. And the digestion takes, it just takes a lot of energy. And so you want to wind down all of those things that take energy so you can rest and restore. So stop eating. That's really super important. Obviously, some of the things would be no caffeine, no sugar, that kind of stuff. No heavy exercise before bed, like 2 hours or 3 hours. And I'm talking about going to the gym, working out hard, that kind of thing, lifting weights. Don't do that right before bed.
Don't max out on your bench. Don't do free weight squats, stuff like that before bed.
Yep. Okay. So now we go back to how we prepared in the morning. Actually, let me talk first about something that we probably could have talked about in the morning is the importance of a weighted blanket. They're becoming, I think our grandmothers had, those heavy duty, they would do the wool and then they would do the quilting, and they were heavy on the bed. And by default, they didn't sell them as weighted blankets, but they used weighted blankets. And then we got away from that. We're on the down comforters, which are lovely, but there's something you sleep well when there's a weighted blanket on you. And there's been a lot of studies about people with anxiety, children with autism, children who have time falling asleep, ADD, OCD, all of those things. Really, I mean, when I have clients that have children like that, it is on the top 3 list is to get them a weighted blanket, but it helps all of us. So you can get them on Amazon. I can send you the one that I have, a link from Amazon that I love. It's very reasonably priced. And they run the whole gamut, but a weighted blanket would be another thing to add to your bed. I don't know if that goes under morning or whatever, just a general topic.
By default, my little girls ended up with weighted blankets because grandma made them these really heavy blankets like that. And, it's a really cool, when you talk about like a hot tub and stuff like that, the kids get a hot bath at night before they go to bed. But sometimes if they are not feeling real well or, a little under the weather, whatever, I'll even take that nice heavy blanket off their bed, run it down the hall to the dryer, throw it in the dryer for like 10 or 15 minutes and bring it back. It's like, so they get this heated weighted blanket. It's pretty cool.
You're spoiling them because that's really fabulous.
Let's talk about the hot bath.
But I love it. And it's interesting. It's so interesting because you're a parent and I'm a parent. And we know that intuitively to do that to our children. We give them a bath at night because it relaxes them. We put them in a warm, comforting, and yet we expect that, and they sleep well. And then we expect that we're going to do something different and just hop in bed and fall asleep. And it doesn't work that way. There are steps to have babies sleep well. There are steps for us to sleep well. Okay, so now we're moving to the bath. And the reason that I am in my 50s, I have taken a bath. I can count on two hands the number of nights that I have not taken a bath at home before I go to bed. I take a bath every single night. If it's 5 minutes, sometimes it's an hour. If I'm listening to a podcast or something, I'll just lay there because it's fabulous. But even if I'm gone, putting that bath in, I'll wash my face, wash my feet, jump out, and I'll get into bed. There's something about that ritual over all these years that tells my body it's time to go to bed. It's time to relax and wind down. Now, I don't do it when I travel because it grosses me out in the hotel bathtubs. But with the exception of traveling, it's just something I do. And I've always slept well. And I think that's part of that. So this bath will be 20 minutes. 20 minutes every night in a hot bath. Twice a week, use 2 cups of Epsom salt. Again, for 20 minutes twice a week. You don't need to do the Epsom salt every night unless you really find it's beneficial, but the price can kind of add up if you do 2 cups a day, at the end of the month. So here's the reason. Epsom salt is not salt. It's actually magnesium flakes. And you can even get magnesium flakes that are even more concentrated. And sometimes I kind of mix them in. But what it does, it absorbs into the skin, and calcium contracts, magnesium releases. And when you have the release of those muscles, like when you have muscle soreness at the end of the day, all sorts of things. It's good for your heart, it's good for your brain. People are magnesium deficient. So getting in that bath is a way to get the nutrients that we talked about in the morning, the stimulating nutrients. Now we're doing the more relaxing nutrients at night. So that hot bath is, even for a mommy, if once she can get in the tub, it's just, self-care is not selfish care, and it's really an important step to a good night's sleep.
Let's have some conversation about communication devices and lights in the house.
Yes.
Actually setting the environment or the mood, the tone, whatever, for a good night's rest.
Yep. No TV in the bedroom, no computers in the bedroom. They give off blue light, which, again, remember we talked about sunlight stimulating hormones. It stimulates a hormone that we don't want before we go to bed. There are blue light blocker glasses that you can get. And I know a lot of people who use them. I've used them in the past. I broke mine. I need to get a new pair. That do seem to really help. So you want no TV, no computer. I just attended a conference. Actually, I spoke at this conference, and it was a living healthy in a toxic world. And a lot of the speakers spoke on EMFs and all the different things that we have going on in our homes now that we didn't have even 10 or 15 years ago. One of them being a Wi-Fi router, and it can keep people awake. And especially if that's by your bedroom, if let's say your office shares a wall or something. And so one of the tips that I thought was fabulous from this conference is get just a cheap timer that you can set on your Wi-Fi, and it goes off at 11 o'clock and it comes back on at 6:30 or whatever time you get up. And the Wi-Fi is turned off for the night. And that actually helps bring down what's the word I'm looking for? Not radiation, but the
EMF signals.
Yeah. Yes, the signals. Sorry, lost my train of thought.
I think we would add to that cell phones, because I've shared with you before that my wife noticed this initially, that cell phones on the nightstand were interrupting our night's rest. And so we not only powered them completely down, but got them out of the room entirely, charged them in a different room, and it made an immediate impact on the quality of our night's rest.
And there's a lot of studies coming out, a lot. Daily, I get a lot of information, and I see this kind of thing, and it really does help. A lot of people are, affected by cell phones and things. So yes, put them in another room. Use a wind-up clock if you can. I know I have a friend who turns off their breakers at night in their bedroom, and she says it's made a world of difference. So I'm probably not going to do that, but I do put my phone away.
Excellent. So we've talked about morning preparation, things to do in the afternoon, a number of different elements, evening. What about right before bed?
Right before bed. So there's a couple of things that I do and that I think are kind of the final really winding down. I do again, we talked about magnesium being releasing. I take a shot of a product called OsteoFX, and it's just a liquid calcium magnesium, and just a quick shot, and then brush my teeth and I go to bed. Because that magnesium helps you relax, and that's again just where I get some of my nutrients. But there's lots of magnesium supplements on the market. You can have one that's a powder to liquid. It's a hot tea called Calm. A lot of those are really good that you might want to do before you go to bed. Before you get into bed, there is a pose that you can do called legs up the wall. And what you're going to do is you're going to lay on the floor. Actually, I have an image of I've used this in a different webinar, but can you see her?
Oh yeah, perfect.
Okay, so here's the floor, there's the wall. Literally, you put your bottom to the wall and you put your legs up and lay there like 3 to 5 minutes. That helps you move from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system when your legs are above your heart, you know, and then stand up slowly, because now you've been, and do a forward fold, which is all that is you reach down to touch the floor, where now your head is below your heart. And again, that helps you move into that parasympathetic mode. And do that about 45 seconds to a minute. You don't need to do it for a real long time. And then get into bed. Literally turn off the lights and wear one of these lovely sleep masks. And this is the one I use. I have another one in my travel bag that I bring to hotel. They mess up your hair. They don't look pretty, but they sure help you sleep. And you don't think that light gets in, but it really does. And once you've used them for a couple nights, you don't even notice that it's on.
I had to stop eating carrots because I could see through my eyelids at night. So I totally get what you're talking about.
Did you really?
No.
Because I've never heard that.
That was a bad joke from a couple pirates named Puke and Snot. But so yeah, it has nothing to do with the subject.
Yeah. I'll have to look that up. I'm not.
No, that was baloney. All right. Well, thanks, Jody. Great information. Just for the recap of our viewing audience, we talked about morning preparation, afternoon.